This is just beautiful. So I'm shooting this at 1.4, as wide as this lens can go. That is a big no-no in landscape photography, but it is a huge yes in my photography. Let me tell you why. Okay, I think I found one. I'm all set up here. I even have my tripod out and everything today. Not because I need it, because I'm shooting at 1/1000th of a second, and the composition was actually better when I was hand holding the camera. The camera should be much higher, but it makes this talking to you and explaining what I'm doing much easier, and it also makes me look better, more professional, doesn't it? So I was asked recently why I'm always shooting wide open, and it's a very good question. It is well known that lenses have a specific aperture, a sweet spot at which they perform the best. That aperture, usually, generally speaking, should be around 2 to 3 stops from the maximum aperture of the lens. So in this case, this lens is a 1.4, so the sweet spot should be around 2.8 or f4. It's not all about sharpness. When we shoot wide open, there are more issues like vignetting or softness, lack of micro contrast, and kind of messy corners. And when we step down the lens too much, well, diffraction starts to creep in. So it's easy to understand why landscape photographers try to shoot at apertures as close as possible to the lens's sweet spot. They are trying to use their tools in the best way to create what they want. So why don't I do the same? Why do I shoot wide open instead? Why do I have a full frame camera and then I use it in a way that creates images that are softer, that lack contrast, that have vignetting and other defects? To explain this, I'm going to use the words of someone who said it much better than I ever could, even though he was talking about poetry and not photography. Ludwig Wittgenstein, Ludwig Wittgenstein, who said about poetry, do not forget that a poem, although it is composed in the language of information, it is not used in the language game of giving information. This is beautifully said, and it is also the way I see photography, the way I try to do photography. And no, I'm not trying to compare my photography to poetry, but the approach is very similar, the way that Ludwig describes poetry. That's the best tree I found so far, but walking through those weeds will mean getting ticks, and that's something I don't want. What a shame. Nice. I think that looks nice. But having to set up the tripod for these shots reminds me of how much I hate the tripod. It's really annoying to have to carry one of these, well, two, because, you know, I'm recording the video too. I just love shooting handheld. Anyway, at this point of the video, you might have already guessed where I'm trying to go, the point that I'm trying to make here. But even though all photographers use a camera, we all use a lens, unless you are shooting a pinhole camera, I guess. But, you know, even though we all use similar tools and we use the same language, the way we use that information is what makes the difference between one style of photography and the others. Whereas landscape photography is usually about capturing as much detail as possible from stunning locations so you can enjoy the detail of the grass on the foreground and the detail of the mountain in the background, my photography is not about that. It's almost the opposite. I try to avoid excess visual information in my images as much as I can. I want them to be suggestive and mysterious and evocative and not so much narrative. That's why I embrace the softness that comes from shooting a lens wide open, why I don't mind about messy corners or vignetting or all of the other imperfections that shooting wide open might create on my images. I feel like that makes for a more organic photography, if you will, less perfect. In my opinion, this is a more gentle way of showing the same information. So instead of, I don't know, throwing all the details in your face, this way, because of the lack of details, because of the lack of sharpness, because the foreground is slightly out of focus, all of that creates gaps in the images, gaps that you're going to have to fill with your imagination. So what the image means to you, what you are actually seeing when you look at the image, all of that is almost up to you. Obviously, I'm not saying that this is the better way, the right way. This is just my way. When I look at a scene, I try to create something instead of capturing the scene. I'm trying to make an image of that scene instead of taking a photograph of it. But of course, I do appreciate a good landscape photograph, and I do enjoy getting lost in all the details of that landscape. I like that kind of photography. It's just not the kind of photography that I'm trying to do here. And this is the reason, among many other things I do to achieve this, why I shoot wide open all the time. Anyway, I'm gonna keep walking around and try to make some more images on this beautiful morning. I hope I can. But yeah, I hope that what I had to say today was useful and helpful. Thank you so much for watching again. See you in the next one.